Take a deep breath. Clear your mind. What you're about to hear isn't theory. It's not feel-good advice about being nicer to people or smiling more. This is the operating system upgrade for how you understand yourself and everyone around you. You've probably heard that emotional intelligence matters. Maybe you've even heard it matters more than IQ for success in relationships, leadership, and life. But here's the problem. Most people treat emotional intelligence like a personality trait, something you either have or you don't. That's wrong. Emotional intelligence is a skill. It's built on neural pathways in your brain that can be trained, strengthened, and automated. The connection between your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala, the part of your brain that thinks and the part that reacts, when those two communicate better, you become someone who doesn't just feel emotions, you use them. Here's what this audiobook will teach you. You'll learn how to read your own emotional state before it controls you, how to manage reactions in real time instead of regretting them later, how to understand what other people are feeling without them saying a word, and how to turn all of that into better relationships, clearer decisions, and a life where emotions work for you instead of against you. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about becoming fluent in the language you've been speaking your whole life without realizing it. By the end, you'll have 10 clear practices, each one designed to build one part of your emotional intelligence faster than you thought possible. So let's begin. Chapter 1. The Speed Problem. Most people spend years trying to get smarter. They read books, take courses, build skills, and that matters. But here's the truth that most people miss. Intelligence without emotional intelligence is like a sports car with no steering wheel. You've got power, but no control. Think about the last time you said something you regretted, or the last time you missed what someone was really trying to tell you, or the last time your mood hijacked your whole day. That wasn't a character flaw. That was a lack of emotional skill. Here's the thing, your brain has two systems. One is fast. It reacts before you think. That's your amygdala. It's designed to keep you alive by triggering fear, anger, and stress in milliseconds. The other system is slow. It thinks, plans, and decides. That's your prefrontal cortex. Most people live their lives letting the fast system run the show. Emotional intelligence is what happens when your slow system learns to work with your fast system instead of getting overrun by it. And the best part? You can build this skill faster than almost any other capability you have, because your brain is designed to learn it. So here's the challenge for you right now. Stop treating emotions like distractions. They're not interruptions to clear thinking, they're information. And once you learn to read that information, everything changes. Chapter 2. The Mirror Test. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Without it, you're guessing, you're reacting, you're living on autopilot. But here's the problem. Most people think they're self-aware when they're not. You know that moment when someone asks how you're feeling and you say fine, but you're not fine. That's not dishonesty. That's a lack of self-awareness. You genuinely don't know what's happening inside you. Here's why that happens. Your brain processes emotions faster than it processes thoughts. By the time you consciously notice you're angry, your body has already flooded with cortisol. Your heart rate is up. Your muscles are tense. And now you're trying to think clearly while your entire system is in fight mode. Self-awareness means catching that process earlier, before the anger takes over, before the anxiety spiral starts, before you snap at someone who didn't deserve it. And the fastest way to build self-awareness is something called emotion labeling. Here's how it works. Throughout your day, pause for 5 seconds and name what you're feeling. Not what you think you should feel, what you actually feel. Frustrated, anxious, proud, disappointed. Just name it. Studies show that the simple act of labeling an emotion reduces its intensity. It activates your prefrontal cortex and calms your amygdala. It's like turning on the lights in a dark room. Suddenly you can see what's there. So here's your practice. 3 times today, stop and name your emotion. Out loud if you can. You'll be surprised how often you didn't actually know until you said it. Chapter 3. Name the storm. Now let's go deeper. Naming emotions isn't just a calming trick, it's a rewiring tool. Every time you label what you feel, you're building a stronger connection between the thinking part of your brain and the reactive part. Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone criticizes your idea. Your amygdala fires, your chest tightens, your face gets hot. If you don't catch it, you'll either shut down or lash out. But if you can pause for 2 seconds and think the word defensive, something shifts. That label creates space. It puts a buffer between the trigger and your response. And in that buffer, you get to choose what happens next. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Emotions aren't problems to solve. They're signals. Fear is telling you something matters. Anger is telling you a boundary was crossed. Sadness is telling you something was lost. When you name the emotion, you're not dismissing it, you're translating it. And here's the neuroscience behind it. Brain imaging studies show that when people name their emotions, activity in the amygdala decreases and activity in the prefrontal cortex increases. You're literally shifting control from reaction to regulation. But this only works if you practice. Your brain doesn't rewire from understanding, it rewires from repetition. So here's the next step. Start naming emotions in other people, not out loud, just to yourself. Watch someone's face, listen to their tone, ask yourself, what are they feeling right now? The more you practice naming emotions, the faster you'll catch them, and the faster you catch them, the more control you have. Chapter 4. The Pause Practice. Self-regulation is what separates reactive people from powerful people. Reactive people let emotions make decisions. Powerful people feel the emotion, then decide what to do with it. But here's the truth. Self-regulation isn't about suppressing feelings. That doesn't work. When you push emotions down, they come back stronger. Self-regulation is about managing the gap between feeling and action. Think about the last time someone cut you off in traffic. You felt anger instantly, but you didn't chase them down and start a fight. Somewhere in your brain, you regulated. You felt the anger, but you didn't act on it. That's the skill. And you can train it to happen faster and more often. Here's how. The next time you feel a strong emotion, pause for 3 breaths before you respond. Not 3 quick breaths, 3 slow, deep breaths. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 6. This does 2 things. First, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the part of your body that calms you down. Second, it gives your prefrontal cortex time to catch up to your amygdala. You're buying yourself 3 seconds of clarity. And here's the key. Those 3 seconds are enough. In that space, you can ask yourself one question. Is this response going to help or hurt? That's it. You don't need a long internal debate, just one honest question. The more you practice the pause, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, you won't need to force it. Your brain will create the space on its own. That's when self-regulation stops being a technique and starts being who you are. Chapter 5. Reading the Room. Social awareness is the ability to sense what other people are feeling, and it's one of the most underrated skills you can build. Because here's the thing, most communication isn't words, it's tone, it's body language, it's the silence between sentences. If you can't read those signals, you're missing half the conversation. You'll say the wrong thing at the wrong time. You'll miss when someone needs support. You'll think everything is fine when it's not. But here's the good news. Social awareness isn't magic. It's attention. And attention is trainable. The problem is that most people are too busy thinking about what they're going to say next. They're not actually listening. They're waiting for their turn to talk. So here's the shift. Next time you're in a conversation, stop planning your response. Instead, focus entirely on the other person. Watch their face. Notice their posture. Listen to the tone behind their words. Ask yourself, what are they really saying? This is called active observation, and it's different from passive hearing. Passive hearing is when someone talks and you absorb words. Active observation is when you tune in to the full signal, the emotion, the energy, the unspoken message underneath the words. Here's what makes this powerful. When you truly pay attention to someone, they feel it. People can sense when you're present and when you're not. And when they feel seen, they trust you. That trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship you'll ever have. So, here's your practice. In your next 3 conversations, focus entirely on the other person. Don't interrupt. Don't plan your response. Just observe. You'll be amazed at what you start to notice. Chapter 6. The Empathy Bridge. Empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is feeling bad for someone. Empathy is feeling with someone. It's stepping into their experience and understanding it from the inside. And here's why that matters. Empathy is the bridge between social awareness and relationship management. You can notice someone is upset, but if you can't connect to what that upset feels like, you can't respond in a way that actually helps. Think about it. Someone tells you they're stressed. If you respond with, "At least you have a job," you've just dismissed them. You heard the words, but you didn't feel the weight. But if you pause and ask yourself, what does their stress feel like? Suddenly you respond differently. You say, "That sounds overwhelming. What's weighing on you most?" That's empathy in action. You're not fixing, you're not judging, you're connecting. Here's the thing most people get wrong. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with someone. It means understanding them. You can empathize with someone's frustration even if you think they're wrong, because the feeling is real, even if the logic isn't perfect. So how do you build empathy faster? By practicing perspective taking. When someone shares something with you, pause and ask yourself one question. If I were them, with their history and their circumstances, how would I feel right now? This isn't about imagining what you would do, it's about imagining what they're experiencing. And when you do that sincerely, your tone changes, your words change, the other person feels understood, and that changes everything. Here's your challenge. The next time someone shares a problem, don't offer advice. Just reflect back what you're hearing. Say, "It sounds like you're feeling X because of Y." Then stop. Let them confirm or correct. You'll be surprised how much that simple act deepens the conversation. Chapter 7. Managing Reactions. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful tools in emotional intelligence, cognitive reappraisal. That's the fancy term for changing how you think about a situation so you can change how you feel about it. Here's how it works. Emotions aren't caused by events. They're caused by your interpretation of events. Someone doesn't return your text. That's the event. But the emotion you feel depends on the story you tell yourself about it. If you think they're ignoring you, you feel rejected. If you think they're busy, you feel nothing. Same event, different story, different emotion. Most people don't realize they're telling themselves stories. They think their emotions are automatic, but they're not. There's a split second between the event and the emotion where your brain assigns meaning, and that's where you have power. Here's the practice. The next time you feel a negative emotion, stop and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Then ask, is that the only way to see this? Could there be another explanation? This isn't about lying to yourself, it's about accuracy. Most of the time, your first interpretation is biased by fear, insecurity, or past experience. Cognitive reappraisal is about stepping back and asking, what's actually true here? Let me give you an example. Your boss gives you critical feedback. Your first thought might be, I'm about to get fired. That thought creates panic. But if you pause and reappraise, you might think, they're trying to help me improve. Same feedback, different story, different emotion, different response. The more you practice this, the more flexible your thinking becomes. You stop being a prisoner of your first reaction. You start becoming someone who can navigate difficulty without falling apart. Chapter 8. Relationship Repair. Here's the truth about conflict. It's not the enemy of connection. It's the test of connection. Every strong relationship you have has survived disagreement. The weak ones fell apart because no one knew how to repair. Most people avoid conflict because they think it's dangerous. And it is, if you don't have emotional intelligence. Without self-awareness, you'll say things you don't mean. Without self-regulation, you'll escalate. Without empathy, you'll miss what the other person actually needs. But with those skills, conflict becomes an opportunity. Here's what most people miss. Conflict isn't about being right. It's about being understood and understanding the other person. If you go into a disagreement trying to win, you've already lost, because even if you win the argument, you've damaged the relationship. So here's the shift. The next time you're in conflict, focus on one goal. Make sure the other person feels heard, not agreed with. Heard. Say, help me understand your side. Then listen without defending. Just listen. This does something powerful. It de-escalates. When people feel heard, their amygdala calms down. They stop fighting and start talking. And once that happens, you can move toward resolution. But here's the key. You have to go first. You have to be the one who regulates, who listens, who creates safety. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're skilled. And after the conflict, here's the most important step. Repair. Reach out. Acknowledge what happened. Say, I didn't handle that well, or I want to make sure we're okay. Don't let tension sit, because unrepaired conflict is where relationships die. So here's your practice. Think of one relationship where there's unresolved tension. Reach out today, not to rehash the argument, just to say, I value you, and I want us to be good. That's repair, and it's one of the most emotionally intelligent things you can do. Chapter 9. The Feedback Loop. Emotions are data. That's the shift that changes everything. When you stop seeing emotions as problems and start seeing them as information, you unlock a level of clarity most people never reach. Think about it. Fear tells you something matters. It shows you what you care about protecting. Anger tells you a boundary was crossed. It shows you where you need to stand up. Sadness tells you something was lost. It shows you what you valued. Every emotion has a message. The question is, are you listening? Most people ignore their emotions or try to get rid of them. But that's like ignoring the check engine light in your car. The light isn't the problem. It's the signal that something needs attention. When you ignore it, the real problem gets worse. So here's the practice. Start treating your emotions like feedback. When you feel something strong, pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What does it want me to notice? What action does it want me to take? Sometimes the answer is simple. You feel anxious because you're unprepared. The feedback is, do the work. You feel resentful because you said yes when you meant no. The feedback is, set a boundary. You feel excited because you're moving towards something you want. The feedback is, keep going. Other times the feedback is more complex. You feel shame because you violated your own values. The feedback is, make it right. You feel lonely because you've been isolating. The feedback is, reach out. Emotions are your internal guidance system. They're trying to help you navigate. But here's the key. You have to respond to the feedback. If you hear the message but don't act, nothing changes. The emotion will keep showing up, louder and louder, until you listen. So, here's your challenge. At the end of each day, take 2 minutes and ask yourself, what did my emotions teach me today? Write it down if you can. You'll start to see patterns, and those patterns will show you exactly what needs to change. Chapter 10. Building your system. Now let's bring it all together. Emotional intelligence isn't one skill, it's a system. And like any system, it works best when all the parts are connected and running automatically. Here's the thing. You now know the pieces. Self-awareness through emotion labeling, self-regulation through the pause practice, social awareness through active observation, empathy through perspective-taking, cognitive reappraisal for managing reactions, conflict repair for maintaining relationships, emotional feedback for continuous learning. But knowing isn't enough. You have to build these into your daily life, because emotional intelligence doesn't come from understanding, it comes from repetition. So here's your system. Every morning, take 30 seconds and name how you're starting the day. Not good or bad, specific, rested, anxious, motivated, distracted. That's self-awareness. Throughout your day, practice the pause. When something triggers you, take 3 breaths before responding. That's self-regulation. In every conversation, focus entirely on the other person. Notice their tone, their energy, their unspoken message. That's social awareness. When someone shares something with you, ask yourself how they're feeling and why. That's empathy. When you feel a strong negative emotion, ask yourself what story you're telling and whether it's the only story. That's cognitive reappraisal. When conflict happens, focus on making the other person feel heard, then repair afterward. That's relationship management. And every night, ask yourself what your emotions taught you that day. That's the feedback loop. This system takes 5 minutes a day, but those 5 minutes will build neural pathways that change how you show up in every interaction, every decision, every relationship you have. So here's your final challenge. Commit to this system for 2 weeks. Not perfectly, just consistently, because consistency is what rewires your brain. And once that rewiring happens, emotional intelligence stops being something you practice. It becomes who you are. Conclusion. You've just learned how to build emotional intelligence faster than most people think possible, not through years of therapy or personality transformation, through 10 clear practices backed by neuroscience and designed to rewire the way your brain processes emotion. Self-awareness so you catch emotions before they catch you. Self-regulation so you respond instead of react. Social awareness so you read the room before you enter it. Empathy so you connect instead of just communicate. Cognitive reappraisal so you control the story instead of letting the story control you. Conflict repair, so your relationships grow stronger through difficulty. And the feedback loop, so every emotion makes you wiser. This isn't theory. This is the operating system for how emotionally intelligent people move through the world. And now it's yours. The only question left is whether you'll use it.